All right, so this part was our decimals, fractions, and percent, and the first part is just a straight conversion between decimals, percents, and fractions. Key to remember to start off with is that percent is per 100. So you could take any percent and directly put it into a fraction over 100. If you have a decimal, what you want to do is you want to read it in proper place value, and that's not 0.49 or 0.49, it's 49 hundredths. Remember, because that's the tenths, and that's the hundredths. So this one down here, if we look at it, 0.999, if we say it like that, it's pretty useless for us. But if we read it as 999, then figure out the place value, tenths, hundredths, thousandths, it's 999 1,000ths. Oh, I can put that into a fraction really, really simply. So let's get going and just fill this in. All right, so if we start with our one at the top, 30%, I'm going to do my fractions first just because it's easier. That's going to become 30 over 100. Now, 31 hundredths, when I go to write that as a decimal, it's 31 hundredths. Same thing. I'm going to go 73 over 100, and that's going to become 73 hundredths. I need to make sure I have something in the tenths or the hundredths. Now, this one up here, if I go back to my 30 over 100, I can divide both of those by 10, so this one can also be 3 over 10. Does not want to do that. Okie dokie. Moving across here. Now I'm going a decimal, and if I look at that decimal, that is 49 hundredths. So I can write that as 49 100ths. And since it's out of 100 now, I know I can put that straight into a percent because percent is out of 100. So 49%. I have 15 100ths, so there's 15 100ths. And again, I can put that straight into a percent because it's 15. This one I can also reduce this decimal over here. So this one, 5 can go into both of those, so this could come down to 3 over 20. Now, here's one that a lot of you made some mistakes on. As I said, if we read this one properly, it's 999 thousandths. Okay, we don't put decimals in our fractions. Now, when we're doing our decimals to percents, the other thing that we do, we can put them into the fraction first and then bring them straight across if they're over 100. But if they're not over 100, we can look at our decimal here and just move the decimal place over 2. So if I move the decimal place over 2, oops, let's go back to pen here, will become 99.9%. So those ones are fairly straightforward. 16% is going to become 16 over 100, and 4 will go into both of those, so that can come down to 4 over 25. And 16%, again, I can take my 16 over 100 and make it 16 hundredths, or I could move my decimal from my percent over 2 and it would become 0.16. All right, so I've got 0.11 for my 11 and 11%. Now these are 3 that are ones that you've been told you should learn, the fifths, the quarters, and the eighths. And what we want to do again is we want to get them over to tenths or hundredths. I'm just going to put them straight into hundredths. You have a calculator. You are allowed to use your calculator for this test. You could have gone 4 divided by 5, because remember that little sign in between there is a divided by sign. And if you did 4 divided by 5 on your calculator, it would have come up with 0.8. Now, this is not ending up being 8% because this is the tenths column. And if we're in a hundredths, we need it to a percent. It needs to be out of 100. So it will end up being, that one, there we go, 80%. The other way to do this is to multiply over here. Multiply and go, how can I get 5 into 100? Well, I'd multiply that by 20, I'd multiply that by 20, I then would come up with 80 over 100. Okay, same thing here. I've got 1/4. Well, if you have a quarter in your pocket, you have 25 cents. Okay, so 1 divided by 4, when you stick it into your calculator, you get 0.25, standing as 25 cents. Move that decimal place over 2, you get 25%. Now, if I've been moving my decimal place over 2 to go from decimals to percents, and 2 places to the right, I have to go 2 places to the left going the other way. So this becomes 0.125%. And when said that way, it makes it easier to make this one 125 over 1,000, because when I read it properly, 125 thousandths. But this is one that I said you needed to learn, you needed to know. This is the equivalent of 1 over 8. And I can divide, if I wanted, I could divide them both by 5, I can divide them both by 25, and then if I finish the 25, I'm going to have to go again. I actually can divide them both by 125, but I probably wouldn't have known that to begin with. Okay. Okay, so this one asks you to calculate the percentages in your head. You have a calculator, so it's very, very easy. I'll do the calculator first, and then we'll go and do a bit of it in your head. All right, so we've said in class, anytime you see of, you get rid of the of and you put a big time sign there as well. So in your calculator you have 50% of 66. So 0.50 times 66 equals 33. 0.25 times 66 equals 16.5. And 0.75, which is 75%, times 66 equals 49.5. You can also, on a lot of the calculators, put in 66 times 50 in the percent button, and you'll get the same answer. Some of them I wasn't working in class, so we're just doing it this way instead. We have the last one of 0.125, which is 12.5%, times 66, and that gives you 8.25. Now, the other ones we have 10%. Most of these ones you can do in the head. You can go through and do the same way as we've just done. So 0.10 times 880, 0.20 times 880. But I'm going to show you to do these ones in your head. Because it's 10%, we know that we're going to move our decimal place over 1. So 10% of 880 is 8.8. 20% is going to be double that. So that's going to be 176. Remember, if you can't do this in your head, change that to a time sign and just figure it out the other way. But most of these I can do in my head. 5% of 880. Don't know that off the top of my head, but I know that 10% is 88. 5% is half of 10%, so this is going to be 44. All right, 1%, that means I'm moving the decimal over 2 places, is 8.8. 2% is going to be double that. That's 17.6. And 6%, well, I can either throw that into the calculator as 0.06 times 880, or I can triple my 2%, and I'm going to come up with 52.8. 3 different concepts, none of them hard, but really just making sure you're getting them right. Terminating. Terminating fraction is one that when you put it in the calculator or you do it, it stops. You get a nice, easy, nice number. Repeating means it's going to keep going and looking really, really ugly. So when we put 2, remember that 2 over 7, when we put in the calculator, that's 2 divided by 17. Okay, 3 over 10 is 3 divided by 10. That's why that middle line in our fraction is the decimal line. Okay, when we get that, the first one here, 2 over 17, it's 0.117647. Oh, ... This one is a repeating. It's keeping going. The second one is 0.3. It stops. It's 3/10. It's terminating. Okay, 5 divided by 25. That's the same thing when I put that in the calculator. That's going to become a 0.2. 2/10. It's terminating. It stops. And 1 over 41. 1 goes into the calculator, becomes 0.024390, and then it goes 2, and it keeps going. So this is a repeating. Done. Now, second part. You didn't read the question. For some of you, you need to write the decimal. Not asking for terminating and repeating here. I want the decimal. So when I throw these in the calculator, 7 divided by 20. Oops, let's go back and change to my black pen here. 7 divided by 20, and I come up with 0 and 35 hundredths. Make sure my decimal place, there it is. 1 over 6, remember this is one of our must-knows, and it is repeating. So in your calculator, you're going to have something that goes like this. So the most correct answer is 0.16 and then a little dot over the 6, which is repeating. Or if you like, you could have put 0.16 and then 7, because you're going to round that next number. I prefer the 0.16 with then line over top, because that is the proper one. 8 over 9, when you throw that in the calculator, you get 0.8 repeating. So, most correct way, 0.8 repeating, that little dot over side. Otherwise, you could also put 0.8 and then a 9, because the 8s are going to round it. This question here. Dennis went out at recess and shot 20 baskets. That's important. He made 12 baskets. And then this is where reading the question becomes very important. What percentage did he miss? A lot of you gave me the percentage that he got, which was lovely, but it didn't work. Okay, so if he took 20, he made 12, that means he missed 8. So I need to go 8 divided by 20, and when I do that, I come up with 0.40 or 0.4. I change that into a percent by moving the decimal over, so he has 40% that he missed. And I could even write a sentence at the end, he missed 40% of his shots.